Morning, folks. Today we'll be reviewing the Korky QuietFILL Platinum Fill Valve Kit, sponsored by the Lowe's Loop program. So let's get to it. Okay, folks, here we are with the packaging open. This universal fill valve basically will work on any standard toilet. You shouldn't have any problems there. Comes with decent instructions. The parts that are in the kit, obviously you have the fill valve assembly itself. You have a retaining nut for the bottom of the unit. You have a Collier fill valve hose attachment. You have a standard fill valve hose attachment. And obviously you have a replacement hose. One unique thing that this one comes with is a locking tab if you wanted to lock the fill valve height so that it was tamper proof so nobody could get to it. You would use this device, and we'll get to that as we move forward. Okay, so let's go to it. Okay, folks, here we are in my master bathroom, and I do have some fill valve issues, so this came in at the right time. The instructions called for basically a pencil, a bucket, and the instructions, and obviously the components come in the unit. It does say you can use wrenches if necessary. I will caution you on a couple of things here. Number one, whenever you're going to secure the water on your unit, as you can see with mine, it's a plastic PVC pipe, but we want to make sure we don't break that. Obviously my valve works fairly functional, and you just close the unit. You turn the valve to close the unit or open the water. Secondly, this piece of pipe is a hard pipe. We shouldn't have to interfere with that, but if the pipe doesn't have enough room underneath the tank to clear the top of this pipe, you may have to disconnect it here and then reconnect it after you put your fill valve back in the tank. One of the things I will also say is always support this valve whenever you're trying to turn this. So if yours doesn't turn as easy as mine, then before you attempt to put any force on this, you want to put a wrench on here to support the pipe underneath. That way you don't put any undue stress on the pipe, whether it's PVC or copper or whatever. If this is too tight, you can loosen this retaining nut just a little bit to kind of free up the stem to give you a little room. So be very careful here. I would advise you to know where the main water cutoff is to your house, just in case you do run into a problem and you break this pipe. There'll be no way for you to stop the water from coming out of this pipe without securing it to your whole house. So be very careful here. Most people won't have any encounter any problems, and we'll move on. So obviously the instructions tell you to secure the water to the tank. Here we are back at my, with the lid removed off the back of the toilet. Here's my old valve assembly and old installation. The first thing it tells you to do is obviously remove all the water out of the tank, which will only take a few seconds. And as you can see, there'll be residual water down there. The instructions call for basically using a bucket, but as you can tell, I won't be able to get any kind of bucket underneath mine. If your connection comes out of the wall, obviously it'll just depend on what kind of access you have to be able to put a bucket or some kind of retaining under there. The alternate to that is a nice rag. And you can insert the rag behind the ball assembly and just let that soak up the excess water and then wring it out in the bucket. So the object here to get the remaining water out of the tank, because once we remove this, any water that's in the tank is going to come out of the bottom, and then it's going to get your floor wet. So if you want to avoid that, just soak up the water and wring it out in the bucket. Okay, here we are with all the water in the bottom of the tank removed with the rag and me just squeezing it out. Our next step obviously will be to remove the old flush valve, and down here we'll have to disconnect our piping seal from the bottom of the old valve, and then our fill valve, I'm sorry, and then we'll take this nut off to remove the whole assembly out of the tank. And again, this is where I will maybe probably use my wrench or my pliers just to get this started. But normally when you reassemble this, you'll be reassembling with hand finger tight pressure. I don't recommend that you use wrenches here because when you're putting it back together. Obviously, because if you snap the plastic, you put too much stress on it, then you basically wasted the whole kit. All right, so okay, here we are, folks. I did remove the coupling nut from my piping. It did move out of the way quite easily. I loosened this, and I'm just removing this to pull out the whole valve assembly. So this is the old valve assembly. There's the nut. I did use a rag around here because there would be some remaining water inside of the unit. So to soak up any water that came down. Once that is removed, basically the whole valve assembly comes out, as you can see. And that's what it looks like. Okay, so now we're here to replace the fill valve. The first thing that we have to do is we have to determine a height for this unit. So this is a nice feature that this one has. It's quick and easy. Basically what we're attempting here is to get the unit into the tank and then raise this assembly so that this corner here reaches and is level with the top of your flush valve inlet port. Okay, so we do that simply by the unit holding the bottom of this unit, and a quick quarter turn will allow you to extend the unit. So as you can see, we can raise the extended height, and then once you find the correct height that lines up this edge and the top of your flush valve, then that's basically your set point for the correct height of the unit. All right, folks, I want to show you that this unit comes with an adjustable height. Let me just try to adjust my camera here a little bit. Basically, holding the bottom of the unit, it just turns, and then you can extend the height. And then when you go back, and then you just it snaps into place. So basically, we're going to set the height of our unit using this technique. Okay, the instructions tell you to turn that and basically fully extend the unit. And then I have the unit in here. I don't have it snapped in place, but basically you're going to slide the unit down till it reaches the height that we're after. So I think what I'll do here, just to get a good marking, is just put the pencil in there and we'll push down on the unit until we get it to where we want it. And once we get it to where we need it, basically we can remove the unit and then snap it back into place and make sure that everything lines up according to the instructions. Okay, and as you can see, using my pencil, I've kind of got everything set. I've got the unit lined up, and one of the things I'll show you is here on the side, that line aligned with those lines basically tell you that the unit is snapped back in place properly. Now, I mentioned before about this locking tab, tamper-proof tab. If you wanted to install that, basically at this point, once the height is set and your unit is locked, this tab would slide up underneath here until these tabs are up underneath this face. So that'll basically be inside of there, and then these holes here in the back would sit on these notches right here. Okay, that'll give you tamper-proof if you think you need it. If you're worried about children getting in there, or if you have tenants, then you might want to put this in there. That'll keep anybody from turning that unit accidentally and it's shooting off the top of the, or the water pressure will push this thing up to its fully extended height, which obviously would cause continuous running of water. All right, so let's get this thing installed and we'll move on. I will put the hose on the unit now and I'll be back. Okay, I did install the tab. As you can see, that's what it'll look like when you're done. So this unit, the height is now locked in place and nobody can move that without going back in here and taking that off. Also put the hose on and now we're ready to secure this into place. So basically we'll be setting this unit back in here where we want it and it's flush. And then from underneath we'll be putting our nut back on the unit from under here. Okay, so let me get that done and I'll be back. Okay, here I have reinstalled the nut and I've hand tightened this nut. And do not use a wrench here because if you over tighten this nut it'll crack and obviously you'll have to go get a new nut or go get a whole new unit. One thing I'll show you, obviously here's my unit installed. This hose is going to be going into this portion here, and I'm going to cut this hose off to use my clip because it's obviously way too long for my distance. Depending on your toilet and how wide it is or how the placement of your fill valve obviously will determine on what the length this will be. Okay, so here we have the valve assembly installed. I've installed my hose assembly here, and I use the clip provided in the kit. It just clips on here and the hose just slides onto the end of it. So now the water coming out of the top of this unit will be directed into here. Since I'm here, I'm going to go ahead and change my flush valve here. It's a little old, as you can tell. So while I'm in here, I'll do that. Okay, a little added benefit. I'm going to replace this with a universal Korky flush valve assembly. Basically, this one just comes off by removing these off the little tabs on the back and the front. And then the unit comes out. And then you disconnect the chain and put the new one in. So let me get that done. Alright, the new one goes in just like we took out the old one. These holes on the side, they just fall on those little tabs. The same on this side. We'll just get that on there. And then our chain will reattach here. You have to determine what's the best height for you. And in my case, just following the old one since it's the same brand, I will go down 4 links with the hook and I should be good to go. And there's the unit installed. Like I said, the chain, I went down 4 links with the hook, attached it back to my valve. That's the right height for me to have actuation. Let's fill this tank up. Okay, I've reassembled all my fittings down here below. And it's time to turn the water on. And the tank should fill back up. And as you can see, the water is flowing right into the flush valve. And then what that does, that's basically provides that excess water as the toilet tank is refilling that goes around your bowl. And when this unit gets to the right height, it should stop. Okay, so here we are, folks. As you can see, there's my old water line, and then there's the new one. So they're not very far off, and the unit is installed, and the water is up to the fill line on the back of the unit. The main thing is to make sure that the water height is approximately 1 inch from the top of this tube when you're done, and that'll prevent any spillover of water into here, because obviously if it didn't stop and the water kept rising above this opening here, that obviously would allow the water to continue going into the bowl, and the valve would never shut off because it never reached its appropriate height. So we have one final step to do on this unit. There's an adjustable valve here to set the fill rate of the bowl as the water is filling the tank, and this is how we're going to do that. So the instructions basically say, using your pencil, the bowl, after it's settled, will have settled by pressure the height of the tank. So basically, here's our water level, and this is just a pencil, so it'll come right off of the tank. So the object is to have the water flow coming back into the tank reach this line at the same time that the fill valve in the tank reaches its full level and shuts off. So let's see where we stand with this. Right now the valve is fully open. So I'm going to try to zoom in here. As you can see, we've reached that line already, and it's going over the top of the line, and the tank is not full yet. So the goal here is to reduce the flow rate back into the tank to get to that line when the tank fills up. So by what we do here is, this valve is fully open. Turning it counterclockwise will reduce the flow of the water going into the fill tube. And I'll just kind of actuate so I'll show you. So our goal here is to slow the speed down, kind of reduces noise, which is part of the quiet feature of this toilet tank. So by flushing the toilet again, we'll do that. And as you can see, the water level is rising back, but at a much slower rate. And the intent is to get that back to where it needs to be by the time the tank fills up. And we're still a little bit fast. So I will adjust it again. Then we'll flush the unit again. And again, this is just for quieting. It doesn't have to be exact. Obviously the tank will level out after the water comes in anyway. So as you can see, as I'm changing the flow rate, I have the lid off, the amount of noise is reduced, and that's our goal. Alright, so you can keep messing with that until you get it where you think you want it, or leave it wide open if you don't mind the noise. But that's just excess water that's going down the drain, because as this goes above that mark, that water will keep going down your drain, and that's what you're trying to prevent. So water conservation, noise, that's what you're after. Okay folks, we're all wrapped up and put back together. Overall, I would give this unit 5 stars. It installed easily. Everything was easy to do. Didn't require too much effort. One thing I will say, make sure that you recheck your line and check for water leaks afterwards. Make sure you got everything tight. And let's go to the final flush. And I recommend this unit. I've changed out quite a few, and as I said, we took out an old unit. And as it fills, you can tell it's fairly quiet, which I like, because normally with my old unit I would turn down the main water flow so that it wasn't so noisy, since it's here in the main the master bedroom, to keep things quiet at night. Alright, anyway, I hope you all enjoy this, and take care.